Hey everyone, welcome to today, whatever day today is for you. For me, it's Monday. For you, it could be Thursday. I don't know what day it is. But I'm really excited today. Today we're talking about something that I've been seeing a lot with our clients. I'm super excited to have this guest on today because it's a huge, life impactful issue, and it's fertility and hormone health. And I just can't even tell you how many people I've been seeing come into our ecosystem lately where there's challenges that are hormones sliding into fertility challenges, these long journeys going down IVF, it's not working. And lo and behold, there's significant environmental stressors in the home. And that's throwing all these things off. And it's not that like the body can't do it. It's that it's just not in the place to do it. And I'm really excited to talk with our guest today, Leah Brueggeman. She's a functional practitioner. She's the host of the Balancing Hormones podcast. She's helped hundreds of women balance their hormones naturally so they can get their lives back. Big part of that is to support their fertility journey. And I really want to dig into this because I think this episode could be like super, super helpful for a lot of people individually and then their future little ones. So, Leah, hey.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think that mold and hormones how are they not connected, right? Because I think you said it so perfectly. If we don't feel safe in our own home, even if like emotionally we feel safe, but we can't if our nervous system is fried due to the toxins that we're being exposed to every day in a place that we are is supposed to be a safe place for us. Um, our hormones are most of the time what we will see is hormones are tanked. They're just tanked because your body doesn't have anything left in the system to kind of push through there. So I think it will be a good topic to cover. It's very important.
Yeah, I mean, just like high level when you're working with women in this world, like how like in the blame pie of things that are causing the problem, like how much of this, like how big is this piece compared to other things, just to give some context to folks.
Mold or
I think like environment, like not
oh
internal,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
environmental stressors. Obviously, air quality and mold is a big part of that. But like, how much is our external environment and sort of what's going on really
I
impact?
mean, everything when it comes to environment, it's huge. Like, it's hard to give a number. I would say 75% because when you think environment, you're thinking endocrine disruptors, which is like your hair care, your makeup, your face products, your cleaning products, like all of these things that you're smelling and putting on your body that you're absorbing into your skin. What you're eating out of your food, if you're cooking in plastic, heating your food in plastic, drinking out of plastic water bottles, um, those are big ones. And then obviously the air you're breathing in your home is a really big one. The air you're breathing in outside as well, I guess, if you're around anything with fires and things like that. But when it comes to the environment, it's not just one thing, right? It's not just your skincare. It's what you're breathing in, it's what you're consuming, it's what you're putting on your body. And there is also, a massive rise in infertility in not only women, but also men. I mean, if you look at sperm quality in men today, 40 years ago, that would have been considered infertile. And it's important that you take note of that because, like, when we're dealing with infertility, it takes two to tango. We're not just looking at women.
I love that you brought that up. I was just at A4M. For those of you who don't know what A4M is, like this massively large medical conference. There's like 8,000 people there. I just came back and I was talking to Dr. Ann Shippey out of Texas, and she's a really big fertility. This is why I was kind of on my radar. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was talking to her about this, and I'm so happy that you brought that up. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's not just the women. Everyone thinks it's the women, but all of this stuff is impacting the men too. And it
Yeah.
becomes a situation where both sides are being kind of depleted and not feeling in that safe space on kind of the nervous system level that you were just kind of referencing. And I mean, how you mentioned there's a huge rise in infertility. Do you have any do you have any numbers or concepts or just something around that we could kind of share?
No, I don't have any concrete numbers. I should have brought some for you because they are actually out there. But I mean, also, if you just even look around you in terms of how many of your friends maybe are struggling to get pregnant,
Yeah.
it's just wild. Like, I mean, and there's never one factor, you know? I think sometimes we think, "Oh, is this because we are the generation that was put on birth control for
Mhm.
every issue under the sun? You have a missing period, you have an irregular cycle, you have PCOS, you have whatever." That's my generation. That was the generation that birth control started becoming candy for every single hormonal issue. So, is it that, or is it the rise in environmental toxins? Is it our horrible food quality? And
Yeah.
all of these things adding up, who knows? And I truly think that it's not one thing. If I was going to say it's one thing, I think it's how less resilient our bodies are. I think that we're running around like chickens with our head cut off. Our nervous system's fried and there's no slowing down. And so you can only, like, if we're doing that, there's no recovery, and our nervous system never feels like it can do what it needs to do. And then you add in environmental toxins, and then you add in birth control, and then you add in all these other things, and your body goes, yeah, well, I give up at this point trying to keep up. So I think there's just so many factors.
Yeah. I mean, that makes so much sense. And if so, it feels like we have that many factors. It's not so much like race to zero, but it's
Yeah.
like trying to figure out like what is the most sort of impactful for that individual and then trying
Yeah.
to kind of prioritize like almost 80-20 concept to work on things and reduce that stress.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And at the same time too, I want everybody to know that you can increase your resilience. Like, that is my biggest goal with every single client, is how can we increase your resilience so that you can handle things. You know, I want you to be able to travel and not feel like you are getting the flu every time you walk out to somebody else's house. I want you to be able to eat out with friends and be resilient and be able to eat something that's not 100% perfect and you are okay. I want you to be able to drive in a car where someone has an air freshener and still be able to survive, you know? And I'm not saying that you do those things all the time, because that's not the point, but you can increase your resilience. So if anything, I do want you to have hope that this actually is possible for you. You can increase your resilience, but it's going to take some work.
Yeah. Well, let's we kind of like jumped into it. I would let Leslie like take a step back. This is my fault. I drove the car too fast. Can you just talk a little bit about like your background, where you came from, how you got to focusing here and having this be your passion point?
Yeah. So I think, as with everybody in the health space, you have to have a story. Otherwise, I don't know why you would start going into the health space. But um, I actually went to college for music, and I was a professional performer. And when I graduated and was working full time as a musician, I was exhausted. I'm talking like I would sleep 10 plus hours and literally still be exhausted. And I had really irregular cycles and didn't flag anything, right? Just, push through, like, you just got to keep going, until I was actually diagnosed with fibroadenomas, which are benign breast tumors. And they're benign, so, I don't know why I had such a panic moment, but at the same time, breast cancer runs in both sides of my family. So anything that kinda like "Ooh, we're not doing a great job with estrogen over here. You already have, some issues with your cycle," really flagged for me. And that's what made me start looking into my health. And as with everybody that ends up working in the health space, you get really frustrated. And so you go, there has to be a better way, because I had gone to the naturopaths, I'd gone to the different practitioners, and everybody was kind of like, you have to do this massive detox. You have to go on this restrictive diet. You have to take hundreds of dollars in supplements, like all of these things. And nobody was really looking at my body as a whole. Everything was like hyper specific, and metals were your issue or estrogen's your issue. And I just didn't see results. All I did was get an issue with food, and I was always on a ton of supplements and I didn't feel any better. And so that's when I went back. I'm like, let's go back to school. Let's like figure this out, use yourself as your biggest guinea pig. And I was able to regulate my cycles. I went from having like 3 cycles an entire year to
Wow.
having regular cycles. I was able to go from periods that would knock me out, I'd be on the highest dose of Midol and throwing up, and have painless periods. I went from like sleeping 10 plus hours. And I mean, I currently have 3 kiddos and I have not slept 10 plus hours in a very long time. And I
Me
have
too.
lots of energy. And I literally just started talking about this. Like after I had done this for myself, I'm like, did you know you could have a painless cycle? Did you know you can regulate your cycles after being told like your only solution is progesterone supplementation? And so I went from that to being able to get pregnant and have 3 kiddos. And I felt like everybody needed to know this. And I just started talking about it. And it just turned into a business because so many women needed this help. And I went on to continue studying. I went on to study NLP, which is neuro linguistics programming, specifically for nervous system, because I saw such a need for that in my clients. And here we are. So I've helped almost 700 women personally now. Um, now that I've been doing this for almost 6 years.
Wow. It's, it's amazing. Like, my wife wasn't that severe to the story that you had, but like her, her periods were really bad, like
Yeah.
very bad. And she actually got on, she got on like seed cycling
Hmm.
and it's seen like a really, really big difference
Yeah.
in the severity, the regularity, like, and she's like die hard on seed cycling right now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. What do you think about seed cycling?
I love I
Now that we're
love
talking
seed
about it.
cycling. I think seed cycling is such an actionable and simple thing that you can do. Um, and for some women like your wife, it's just that missing thing that can be a game changer. And then for other women, it's a part of that puzzle that they need to add in with blood sugar balance and all the other things as well. It's a part of that puzzle piece, but literally there I'm like, is there anything simpler like than seed cycling? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that hard to do. And for people who are wondering what on earth it is, it's pumpkin and flax seeds, 1 tablespoon of each daily. I would buy them whole and then grind them before eating because they can go rancid fast. One
Mhm.
tablespoon daily from your period to ovulation. And then you switch to sesame and sunflower, 1 tablespoon of each a day until your next period. There's also some phenomenal studies on that, actually. Amazingly, specifically on seed cycling, they're recent on it benefiting PCOS. And so, especially if you're in that category with PCOS with irregular cycles, bring in seed cycling. And if you go, I'm not having a cycle, I can't do that, follow the moon. So, the pumpkin and flax seeds, you would start with the new moon. And then on the full moon, you would switch to sesame and sunflower. Your reproductive system is adaptive, so you can help it start to find a rhythm.
Wow. So like the mechanism of what it's doing is it tied to like a specific nutrients that are being depleted, and then that's providing certain nutrients that then sort of that your body needs in order to cycle back in a normal
Yeah,
cycle.
so there's a few mechanisms to it. One, it simply is fiber. It's amazing what fiber does. I mean, fiber is going to be great for your gut bacteria. Fiber is going to be great at lowering and optimizing levels of beta glucuronidase, which is like how you can recirculate toxins and estrogen if it's too high. So fiber does a great job there, simply just increasing fiber. But also, pumpkin and flax seeds are high in lignans and they're high in zinc, both of which you need for egg quality and to support optimal estrogen levels. So if estrogen's too low, it can help bring it up. But if estrogen's too high and you need more support detoxing, it can do the same thing. And then
Mhm.
sesame and sunflower seeds are coming in with a bunch of different nutrients. They come in with magnesium, manganese, vitamin E, again with the soluble fiber, and those specifically actually will support levels of progesterone and detoxification of estrogen. So it's just supporting the different phases where you need them.
So it sounds like it's almost like a natural form of, instead of getting injections of progesterone or whatever it is, like doing hormone therapy, that you're sort of using this to trigger the natural production and modulation of those
Yeah,
things.
I wouldn't say it like triggers the production, but it supports the function. So
Uh,
it's kind of like helping your body get some of the nutrients that it needs to produce what it needs to.
got it. Well, that's super interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because like my literally every morning she's got like her bag and she's got her stuff and she's literally like it just swears by this now. It's like really
Yeah.
changed.
It's
changed.
really useful. It's
Yeah,
very
it's very
simple to
cool.
do.
So when someone comes and they say, my hormones feel off,
Mhm.
like what's kind of going on underneath the surface? What's happening that's sort of making them feel that, I guess, that symptom, if you will, that they're trying to put their finger on?
So when hormones are off, something else is going on. So one of the things that I always think is interesting is when somebody has hormones off, again, every situation is different. I'm not necessarily going to jump on a hormone panel because if you feel like your hormones are off, trust me, I'm sure that hormone panel is going to come back wonky. But
Mhm.
there are so many things that impact your hormones that we need to go to. Okay. So if you think about a funnel, okay, and hormones are literally at the bottom of the funnel. Okay. So if they're off, you have to go all the way up to all of these other things that are impacting them and start there. Because if you try to manipulate just the hormones, which a lot of times we accidentally fall into that, like, oh, just go on progesterone cream because you have low progesterone, or just go on DIM, or just go on calcium diglucarate because you have high estrogen. But you're not impacting the things that impact your hormones. And you just are going to keep wandering around taking a new supplement and being like, why don't I feel better? Or maybe you feel better for one cycle and then things go off again.
Mhm.
So, where I like to start, and I recommend everybody start, is actually with minerals. So, minerals are the spark plugs to every single function in your body, including your hormones. And so, if you have a hormonal issue, you have a mineral issue. And so, let's go. Minerals are all the way up here. Like, let's go all the way up to minerals and see what's going on there, because that can also give you incredible insight on what's going on at a cellular level. And so when we can look at hormones and see what's going on there, we're going to be getting a better idea of drainage. We're going to be getting a better idea of liver. We're going to be getting a better idea of how your body is utilizing your thyroid hormone. And that, I think, is definitely where I would recommend starting. And then on top of that, if we just think about it, like, if you have hormonal issues, I feel like something else that goes tangent with that is you're probably going to have some type of digestive issue, whether that's bloating or constipation or diarrhea or acid reflux. And so that also tells us that you probably aren't pulling the nutrients that you need from your food, which again means that our minerals are probably not going to be where they're going to should be. And you can't have balanced hormones without minerals. So instead of trying to manipulate the hormones, let's just go right up to the minerals and start there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are like symptoms when someone's like, my hormones feel off? How does that present? I'm sure there's
So
lots of ways, but like main ones.
everyone's gonna go, that's me. So you can have hair loss, you can have brittle hair, you can have irregular cycles, missing cycles, you can have inability to lose weight, especially if you feel like you carry most of your weight around your midsection or your hips. Even if you feel like you're doing all of the dieting, you can have a lot of inflammation and puffy face. You can have PMS. You can have heavy periods. You can have too light of periods. You can have cramping, mood swings prior to your period. Basically, the inability to feel like you can control your mood,
Mhm.
like that massive anger. Are I feel like really tender breasts are all those are the big categories. And unfortunately, I feel like most women can go like, oh yeah, at least one of those is me.
Yeah. What about men? We talked about men earlier. So if they're
Yeah.
yeah, what?
So with men, inability to lose weight. Okay. So one of the big things you'll notice also with men is if they tend to carry a lot of their weight in their midsection. That's a big one. And then also just inability to lose it. Low drive is going to be a big one. Obviously, erectile dysfunction. I feel like that kind of makes sense with low drive. Low energy across the board. And then I feel like this kind of makes sense if you're struggling to lose weight, but also like really hard to build muscle as well. Those are kind of like the bigger categories that I would say they fit into.
Got it. Yeah, it's helpful. I think even for the men too, because like honestly, I don't know. Like I think women are way more in tune to this than men are, right? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't have any idea. So just to like start pulling the pieces together, and if one of those things are happening, you're like, oh. Okay, well, maybe that's something you would think of. 'Cause, guys, they never think anything is wrong.
This is
Guys.
true. I feel like I don't get guys as clients until, like, they've hit rock bottom, which I do feel like happens a lot with women, but, like, a lot of the guys that, like, stand out that I've had as clients are, like, one couldn't work because his brain
Mm,
fog was so bad that, like, he couldn't actually perform his job safely. Um, and so that was, like, rock bottom, like, not noticing anything's wrong until, like, "Oh my gosh, my boss isn't letting me work because I can't safely, like, operate this machinery." Or, I feel like I'm tired all the time and having to stay on anti-inflammatories literally just to be able to try and work like
well,
they're on anti-inflammatories all the time. Those are the type of guy clients I tend to get. So by that time, it's like they know something's wrong.
how often are you getting your women clients then bringing in their partners to
So
specifically around like the fertility and kind of preparation side and all that?
for fertility, always. So that's actually something that we have as mandatory is because it takes two to tango. If you're coming to us for infertility, your spouse needs to also be on board with the nutrition changes and all of these other aspects because that plays such a big role.
And how often are you seeing that there's issues in the men as well that are having to get addressed?
Um, so there is in every single one where we see men and women, there is massive need for optimization with the men. Massive need. Um, but I will say that like men being like the primary driver, about 25%. But again, like we do work predominantly with women. So like, they're the ones that are coming to us and then dragging their spouses along because they're like, oh, Leah said you have to do this with us.
I mean, it feels like it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the primary driver, right? But like you
Mhm.
said, it takes both sides. So like just
Yeah.
the idea of like most of them need some sort of tweaking and optimization and sort of get
Yes.
themselves in an ideal
Mhm.
state too. It's just, we go back to this fertility thing and it's like you got to attack it from all the angles to
Yes.
give yourself the best probability of something
Yeah.
of the result that
Well,
you want.
the other thing that you think about too is like you have the women and you have the men. And if we're supporting the women to get her to 100%, like, why are we going to go, oh, well, the guy's like 50%? Like, that's fine.
Right.
If we're
Right.
dealing with infertility, let's give everybody the best shot, which means let's calibrate everything to the highest amount that we can. Which is why which we don't have clients where, the guys are like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do that." Like, if we have clients coming to us for infertility, they're on board to support, obviously.
Yeah, of course. So one thing that we see a lot in our world, it's chronic exposures. It's like
Yeah.
consistent, obviously, with indoor environments, stuff like that. So and sometimes it's even low level, right? It's not like these massive things that are going on, but it's few areas, that might not be triggering, I'm physically dying and feel terrible all the time, but it's maybe pulling minerals out of balance, it's maybe doing some sort of things. Like when you're seeing exterior stressors, let's say external
Yeah.
stressors coming into play. Um, Trying to think of the best way to ask this. Is it always like an incredibly severe thing that then kind of knocks somebody off the cliff to the point where now they're going to start having challenges with fertility and stuff? Or do you see that like lower grade chronic longer term is also kind of driving the same results?
I think the lower grade is more confusing. Like, it takes that category of women a lot longer to go, "I'm having an issue," because it's so low grade. We kind of brush it off like, yeah, I'm tired, or yeah, I find it hard to get up in the morning, or yeah, I kind of have digestive issues, but it's not extreme. And so I think it takes a lot longer to search for help. And then at that point, we're so depleted. It's been going on for so long versus, the massive I'm breaking out in hives, or all of a sudden, I can't function. Um, Kind of sits in two separate categories, but across the board, I will say, when we're dealing with women whose hormonal issues are driven by this environmental,
Mhm.
depletion across the board. Like they just don't have any minerals. There's no minerals. Um, and that is something that I think is so important when it comes to building up resiliency, is like making sure that you can pull your minerals from everything. So like your food, your drinks, making sure your supplement, if you're taking those, are very, very on point. Like being very precise and very specific with what you're choosing to do. And I think that that can take a whole host of issues, and like a whole, like not host of issues, a wide approach. Okay. So let's just take mold, for example. Let's say you're in mold, which is an environmental exposure, and your nervous system is, which you talk about this all the time, your nervous system is fried. It's fried. And so if you can even just come in with support for your nervous system emotionally, mentally, with like what you are doing, but then also with supplements, that's where I would start with helping your body calm down. Okay. Because obviously you need to get rid of the exposure. But if we're going to talk in terms of what you need to do, that's where I would start with that. And it's different for everybody. You know, if you're somebody in your nervous system, you're wired where you just go, I would like to punch a wall, or I get mad and I yell at everybody, or are you someone that's like, I just don't care anymore? You're shut down. You need to take different approaches with your nervous system there. Because if you're wired, you want to punch a wall and someone goes, you should do some breath work. Or go put your legs up a wall. I mean, is that really going to work? You're already going 100 miles an hour. So I really want you to think about your nervous system as it's a ladder, and it's where are you on the ladder, and can we help support you so that we're always coming back to the middle of the ladder, right? And so if you're over here and you're in that fight or flight, I'm going to punch a wall wired, you have to move that energy. You have to give it somewhere to go, okay? Do air punches, do jump squats, do throw a pillow onto a couch, punch a pillow, do something, scream into a pillow. I really don't care. Do something to move the energy, and then do something calming and regulating. Then do legs up a wall, then do your breath work, then do EFT tapping. And same thing if you're over here in shutdown. If I was like, let's do a regulating exercise where you stand up and dance, you're going to be like, yeah, no. So maybe you just turn on some music. Maybe you do legs up a wall. Maybe you put pressure on your occipital nerve and just help your whole body relax. Maybe you do something to stimulate your vagus nerve. I think that's important to understand, because I will hear from women all the time. They're like, I regulate my nervous system every day. I like do legs up a wall. It doesn't help. I literally feel tingly everywhere. I'm like, yeah, because you have to match it to where you are on that ladder. So even bringing that in, or bringing in reishi mushroom is a great, great, great support for the nervous system. And the other thing to consider with reishi is the dosage. I know some people are like, I'm taking reishi and I don't notice a difference. The studies on the benefits of reishi is like 4,000 milligrams. So you gotta typically get that dosage a lot higher than you would think. So that's a great place to start, just calming the nervous system. But then let's come in with the mineral support for the adrenals and the thyroid that you need to have balanced hormones. And this also is going to take a really strong look at your digestion, because you might be eating the foods that I'm about to talk about, but if you don't have optimal stomach acid, then you're not really pulling them. So bitters are a great thing that I would recommend bringing in for a lot of people. Not only do they help stimulate bile flow, which is going to be great for helping move mold, but it also is going to help your digestive enzymes get moving and support stomach acid. So you're going to pull more nutrients from your food. So digestive bitters is a great one to bring in to just support your overall optimization of your life. But then I really, really, really focus on getting potassium rich foods in, because if you're living in an environmental stressor, that depletes potassium. Potassium is your stress mineral. The more stressed we are, the more depleted we are. The more depleted we are, the more stressed we are. It's a horrible circle. So, getting in those potassium rich foods, coconut water, nettle, sweet potato, leafy greens, if you can digest them well, are all great ones to bring in. Nettle is like one of my top ones because it's just like, just drink nettle tea, you guys. Put it with your, if you drink electrolytes, mix it with your electrolytes, more nettle tea, just bring it in. Is a great one. Celtic sea salt is also another great one to be sprinkling on your food because sodium is the battery for our adrenals. The vitamin C rich foods is also the battery for our adrenals. This is where the viral adrenal cocktail came from because it has vitamin C, sodium, and potassium in it, which are the three things that your adrenals need.
Mm.
So I'm not a big fan of the standard adrenal cocktail because when people hear, oh, I'm going to drink orange juice, they tend to like drink a whole glass of orange juice, which just spikes their blood sugar. So I typically recommend doing like one lemon with some coconut water and some Celtic sea salt. It's a great way to support your adrenals there and get that energy up. But those are some ways that you can start. And then if you want to get very targeted with that with supplementation, go to testing.
Yeah, that was all really good. I literally was going to start asking you about all that later, so I'm glad that you dug into that because it's like simple things that people can start working on that are just kind of like foundational patterns. It sounds like that you're
Mhm.
all seeing all the time, right? So
Yes.
the other thing that I heard, right, or that I took from what you were just saying when we were talking about the low grade chronic stressors, and then
Mhm.
people just come in and they're just like wiped of everything.
Mhm.
It's not. I mean, from what I'm hearing, that's a harder road back at that point because you're kind of starting at a lower place. And then the problem is that because somebody's immediate pain centers aren't firing like crazy to the point where they're trying to address it right away, that's sort of why it depletes everything so
Mhm.
low to that point. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those things that we just get trained to not feel good. You know, we grow up thinking like you're tired is a caffeine deficiency. You have a headache, it's an aspirin deficiency, which is never the case. But it just we never go from 100 to 0. It's like we go from 100 to 99 and then you go to 98 and you're like, am I a little bit more tired? But I'm not that much more tired than you were at 98. So it's like when you compare it going step by step, you just kind of keep gaslighting yourself and being like, oh, it's not that bad, or it's not that bad,
Yeah.
and then you get to a certain point where you go, oh, well, I'm not in my 20s anymore, so that's why I feel this way. And I think that every woman can feel amazing. And that's what I want. I love it when I get the client messages where they're like, I didn't even realize that I didn't have energy because it had been gone so long. I just didn't know what it was anymore. Or my husband tells me that like I'm back, because they actually don't put their kids to bed and go right to sleep because they don't have any energy to do anything. So I think it's literally just the gradual build up and we just get desensitized to it.
Yeah, it's like boiling the lobster, but
Yes,
don't
exactly.
know first and that they don't even realize that it's happening. The energy thing is really interesting. I guess like if you're starting to work with someone,
Hmm.
sort of like where do you start? Is it like a quick win where it's like, hey, you're gonna feel this pretty quickly, and then you're gonna realize that there's all these other things going on? Is that like one path that you take sometimes? And if that was the path, what's the thing that gets the quick win? Is it one of the things you just mentioned before? Is it something else? It's like where do you start if you almost want to prove to yourself or validate to yourself even before going out to somebody like, oh wow, yeah, this is here now.
So I always tell everybody like they're going to talk about this. That's going to go on my gravestone, which I mean, not really, but kind of,
Like I,
is going to be blood sugar balance. So the one thing that I really, really focus on with all my clients is when they first come to us, we do run testing because we want to see where their minerals are at. We want to optimize that. But we work on foundations and we work on rebuilding. And then you detox. Because I think a lot of times what we're jumping into is these very aggressive detoxes because you go, I've been exposed to this for so long. I've been doing this for so long, which I'm not saying that detoxing isn't a part of your journey. It probably is. But what are you going to detox with? Like, I mean, if you're so depleted and then you just jump into like, let's do all of this detox, and you wonder why you have all these herx reactions and you actually feel worse, and my headaches get worse, and my bowel movements get worse, and my energy gets worse. We have to start with rebuild. And sometimes then rebuild will overlap with detoxification. And this is, by the way, I feel like an automatic, like, you're cleaning up your environment. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like that was the unspoken thing that everybody already knows that people
I
need
mean,
to
sometimes
do.
you have to say it because I feel like they just don't even think about it.
Well,
It's
I
just
mean,
ignorant.
with our clients, and you probably see this, the clients that come to us with mold, they go, I want to run a mycotoxin test. I want to run an oat test. And I'm like, where's your mold exposure? I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, let's put your money there. Let's find out where the exposure is. Because if you're pretty sure you have it, like, let's not waste the money currently on you and that testing. Let's clean up your environment first. Because otherwise, it's like trying to clean out your body while you're breathing in the exhaust from your car. Like, it doesn't work. So,
100 million%. And like
uh,
side note, like the dust test, which is our at-home test kit. It's it. It's at-home test kit. It tells you. It just literally answers that question, and it's affordable, right? So like it's the way to start because if that's constantly depleting you, and then you're trying to figure out how to
mhm.
support increases, like it's not going to work, just like you said. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for connecting that.
It's a good reminder, and that's what we'll see sometimes. We'll have clients that come to us not for mold, actually, and like
Mhm.
we'll see a lab and we go, we're pretty sure you have a mold exposure. They're like, I've never heard about that. That's not a thing, Leah. I'm like, it is a thing. Let's dive into that. But we start with foundations. So we start with foundations, we start with rebuild, and then we'll do testing and optimize what you're doing, right? But when I start with foundations, you notice a difference with foundations. And sometimes it's a massive change for women that they have to make, and sometimes it's just subtle tweaks. Okay. So, one of the foundations that I just hammer into people's head nicely and gently, but hammer it, is blood sugar balance, because blood sugar balance is one of your it's the foundation of your house, and it's going to help optimize everything, because it's going to help optimize your cortisol levels, it's going to help optimize your insulin, it's going to help optimize your inflammation levels, which will then in turn impact everything else. And blood sugar balance is free. Like, everybody can do it. They can't say like, "Oh, I can't buy that supplement," or "I can't do that." It's free. Everybody can do it. And so if you've never entered the realm of blood sugar balance and you think that it's just for diabetics or pre-diabetics, it's not. We're not looking to flatline your glucose. So right now when you're eating, actually I have no idea what it looks like, but I would assume it's probably more peaks and valleys. Most women's are. And I'm not looking to flatline it. I'm not looking for keto. Okay. Women need carbs for ovulation. We need carbs for our thyroid. So we do need those. I'm looking for rolling hills. So that means I'm looking to minimize the spike on how high it's going up and how long it's staying up. So that's manually balancing your blood sugar with food. And that comes down to two things, really. It comes down to protein and fiber. Okay. So if you're going to think about your plate, think about half your plate being non starchy veggies, and then half your plate being protein, and half your plate being fat and carb, because you're getting your fiber in, and then you're getting your fat and carb in, but you're getting the protein. Protein and fiber are so important. Sometimes when we think blood sugar balance, we think protein, which is great, but you also need the fiber. And I aim for a minimum of 30 grams of fiber at your meals. You're ideally looking for about um, 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. And that's typically a lot more protein than most women are getting in. So that's something to kind of like think about. Um, and then making sure you're getting in your fiber. Now, if you are somebody that maybe is currently living in mold, you're probably actually going to have a harder time digesting oxalates because of the mold. And that doesn't mean that I think you should eat no oxalates or I think you shouldn't eat your fiber. I think you should. But the cool thing is that a lot of protein sources are also going to contain B6. Beef organs is a great one. Beef is a great one, which helps you digest and neutralize oxalates. So that's why, again, we eat a well-rounded diet and support the body in that way. So if you're going to start with anything, start with blood sugar balance, because the more stable we can keep that, the better your sleep's going to be, the better your energy is going to be, the lower your inflammation levels are. It just literally helps everything. So if you're going to start anywhere, that's where I would recommend starting.
Love that. I know I have this about my world, so I'm just curious. What's like the one or two myths about hormones that you just wish would disappear forever and people would stop?
Well, there's a lot. One that I think is not really a myth, but like something that's just taught all the time is that progesterone supplementation will solve all your ills. Like, and I see this a lot with women who go to NAPRO doctors and they're like, yes, finally a doctor that's like going to track my cycle. And they give you progesterone. And it's like, why are we not asking why you have low progesterone? Like, why are we not asking that? Why are we not digging deeper instead of just going, oh, you have low progesterone, this will solve all your issues? No, it won't. Because if we don't fix the issue that's causing the low progesterone, it's just going to crop up in other areas. That's probably my biggest one. And then the second one, again, has to do with supplementation across the board, is that with anything with hormones, you can't out supplement your diet. It's impossible. And so if you have symptoms of estrogen dominance and you're told like you need to bring in more fiber and someone goes, great, what's a good fiber supplement? I'm like, no, like you need to bring in more fiber in your food. And you can't out supplement what you're eating, what you're emotionally bringing in and eating, like your nervous system. If you're fried all the time and you're stressed and you're just doom scrolling and you are not paying attention to blood sugar balance, I can't out supplement that. And I think a lot of times when it comes to hormones, we're just like, well, give me a supplement, give me something to balance my estrogen, give me something to balance my progesterone. It's impossible. Like you can't out supplement your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's like normal. It's the new normal of people want very easy. Just don't make me work for it and just give me the magic thing.
Pill for
Our
every ill.
our bodies aren't really like that. For acute things, maybe, pain relief for a specific thing that's isolated, but these issues, they just don't get fixed like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, Circling back to like the fertility journey, what's the one piece of advice for somebody that's in that flow that you feel like they should hear, or the first thing they should do, or whatever you're thinking in that realm?
I'm gonna choke on. I'm like breathed funny. I was like gonna choke on my spit. I'm like, it is an emotional topic, but it's like not that I'm crying in this moment. So I think one of the biggest things is that you are not broken. So when you're dealing with infertility, it's really easy to just think you're broken. And everything that you're doing is coming through that lens. And I think that's the first thing that we need to switch, because your mind is so powerful and it's filtering everything through that reality that you are telling yourself that I'm broken, and you're not. You're not broken. Okay? So that's my number one thing, is let's rewire that part of our brain. And then secondly, there's probably not one root cause for why you are dealing with infertility. And notice how I said dealing with infertility and didn't say you are infertile. Like your language around this is very important. And so I wouldn't like burn yourself out looking for the one root thing that's causing all the things. There's probably a little bit more whole body approach that you can do. And so I wouldn't demand perfection of yourself. I would start with the things that you know are going to start moving the table, like blood sugar balance, maybe looking at your minerals, cleaning up your environment, and just start, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just start, and you're gonna get better every single day. And 2 years from now, hopefully you have your little baby, and also you're gonna be looking back and being like, whoa, remember when I used to have air fresheners in my car? Like, it's the little steps along the way that are gonna make this massive difference. So don't feel like you need to change everything today.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And I love that, like the way that you communicate and like what you're doing on your stuff. It's very like, it's very empowering as opposed to like the world is ending and you have to do this one thing, otherwise nothing's going to work.
Yeah.
It's a subtle shift in how you communicate, but it's really important for people, even subconsciously as they're digesting what they're hearing. So I think that's really
Yes.
cool.
Thank you.
Follow up on what you just said, because of popular player talking about it. So a lot of people are doing IVF.
Mhm.
At what point, I guess two questions. One, I mean, I'm sure for some people it's probably needed, but I guess broadly, how needed do you think it really is? And then at what point would you say, hey, I think this is now something to explore?
So there there's so many things in the IVF like world that I just don't think are told to people. Okay, so I have had many clients that have done IVF. So I had a client who did 4 cycles of IVF, and she had a baby girl, and she started working with us, and she got pregnant naturally. And we've had someone who went the IVF route, and she turns out she actually had a blocked fallopian tube,
Wow.
and they cleared it, and she ended up on getting pregnant naturally like 2 years later. Like she'd had a baby from, I think it was an IUI, not IVF. And um, another client we had went through multiple rounds of IVF, nothing, and she's now currently pregnant. And I just I don't think is I just why would you not check that fallopian tubes are blocked? Like, when you're dealing with infertility, it's like, let's just jump on this IVF train. And it's like we haven't even looked at all of these situations of things that are going on. We haven't looked at the optimizing the men's sperm quality, not only like morphology, but motility, like all of it. We haven't looked at all of the aspects for women's health. Like, have we optimized her thyroid? Have we optimized her adrenals? Have we optimized her mineral levels? Like, and it's crazy to me. It's literally crazy to me where we just jump to this and you've left 99 of the boxes unchecked. Like, I mean, like the one client who had been through multiple IVF treatments without success, she had been trying to get pregnant for 3 months. And she went to the doctor. She's like, "We're not pregnant." He goes, "Great, let's try IVF." What? I think there's just so many boxes that are left unchecked, and not enough education, and um, it's just crazy to me, because I, I just don't think there's enough education. And I'll just leave it at that, because I see a lot of women, like we know someone currently who is trying to get pregnant via IVF, and she keeps actually she had an ectopic pregnancy, and they go, "Oh, like let's just try this again. Like if you had an ectopic pregnancy, if you're at greater risk." I'm like, actually, you have a greater risk with IVF, but they don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. Like there's just not. I just feel like there's not enough education. And so you're given this, it's a very low percentage of success with IVF, but it's a percentage. And so I think that's um it draws us in, because you're like, oh, okay, even though the chance is so low, there is a chance. Um, and I just don't think there's enough education. That's just my 2 cents.
Do you think the chances are so low, meaning it doesn't work so often because all of these other foundational things that we've been talking about, the stressors, the mineral depletion, like all this stuff? And so, like, there's magic IVF isn't going to solve the terrain that is
It's
not
not.
suitable for this to happen.
It's not. And that is the unfortunate thing. Again, going back to the education, is that um, you are not broken, but there's a reason potentially why we aren't getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And let's just see how we can support the body there. And um, it's one of those things where I think, let's put the body in a healing environment
Yep.
and see what happens, because you would be amazed at what happens when we do that.
Dude, bodies do some crazy stuff when
Mhm.
you take away the thing that it's telling you, it's trying to tell you that something is wrong. It's just like
Mhm.
interpreting. It's like speaking a different language, but
Yeah.
it's like is trying to, I mean, I've seen a kid in a wheelchair on a feeding tube out of the wheelchair playing Pee Wee sports in 9 months after the mold in their HVAC system and something else got handled. And all of a sudden his body was fine. And it's like the bodies, they can do crazy stuff when you just try to help them out a little bit. And they're trying to tell you. They
Yeah.
just, there's only so many ways they can talk to you, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. So where can people find you, learn more about you? Obviously talked about, your podcast earlier. So again, it's a Bouncing Hormones podcast, but any other areas, if they want to dig into you a little more or learn more about how you work with folks.
Yeah. So I'm probably the most active on Instagram outside of our podcast YouTube channel, which is Leah, Leah_Bruegg. We post a lot over there, and there's lots of ways for you to like go through free courses and stuff like that on Instagram. So that's where I would head over.
Love it. Well, is there any final things, or you think we got you think we got a good run of it? What do you think we missed anything?
I mean, there's always more that we can talk
Something.
about, but ultimately, like, yeah, if women can just walk away knowing that there's actionable things they can take and their body has the capability of healing and feeling better, if they can walk away with that, I'll be a happy camper.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
All right.